Okay, so we want to do this release laying down. So just like this, right? So what I'm doing here, right, is I'm finding my rib cage. So you're finding your rib cage right where that last rib is in the front, right? Once we find that, we're going to take the hands and the fingers and we're going underneath those ribs. We're going underneath them, just like this, right? And you're just feeling around. Now, we're going to actually start right here, and I'll sit up just so you can see, but right, my rib cage is here. I'm going to start underneath, right in the center, all right? So I'm just giving some pressure there with my hands, right? I like to lay down because it's just easier. You don't want to have your abs contracted while you're trying to release them. It's not going to work, right? So I'm going to go right underneath there, and I'm just giving some pressure, and it's almost like you're trying to hook and grab. You're not really yanking on it hard, but you're trying to get in there and hook and grab. You might notice that there is some tender spots, and that's what we want to work out. So now that you're kind of aware, just pick which side feels the most locked up. If they both feel locked up, then just do them both at the same time. For me, the left side seems a little bit more locked than the other, so I'm going to use both of my hands on the left side of my rib cage. Let me turn this way a little bit. So I'm just in there, just releasing. So you don't really have to do that much. It's like you're trying to give yourself a self massage. What I like to do is just take the try to get underneath the rib cage a little bit. And then you could also just give cross fiber friction. So I'm just going across the abs because the rectus abdominis, these muscles, the line of pull is down, right? So it's going from your rib cage down towards your pelvis. Going across the fibers would be going from left to right. So I'm just giving some of that cross fiber friction there. And I'm just following that line right underneath the rib, right underneath that last rib. And I'm just following that line, seeing where the tension is. Again, if you, like, most people have a crushed rib cage, right? So there's going to be some tightness in here. You can also move to the actual rib cage and go in between the two ribs if you can feel that, right? There's a space in between both ribs, and you have something called intercostals. Those are muscles that are in between every rib, right? And those are the muscles that tend to get constricted. When those muscles are constricted, they're not allowed to fully expand, so they stay in this contracted state. When they stay in that contracted state, it's like you're doing bicep. Imagine if you were just doing bicep curls all day, or just holding, it could be a 1 or 2 pound dumbbell around all day. Your biceps are going to be super stiff, super sore, and even when you put the weight down, your arm is basically going to be stuck in this position because it's used to it, right? Same thing with the rib cage, except for with the ribs, we actually, and again, we're still just working around here. You can find, if you find something in the rib cage, or if you find something in the abs, you can move on to the next side. We're just looking for the painful spots. If there's no painful spots, then you're just looking for another painful spot, or a spot that seems like it's stuck and stiff, all right? But as we're doing this, I'm just kind of explaining what exactly you're doing here, right? We want to be able to release this stuff so that when you do take that deep breath in, right, your diaphragm is actually able to expand. When your diaphragm is able to expand, you actually can move your rib cage more. When your rib cage can open up more, you're able to take in more oxygen because your lungs are inside of your rib cage. If your rib cage isn't allowed to expand, then that means that your lungs aren't allowed to expand. So this means that you're not going to be able to take in as much oxygen as you need. Right? So for me, historically, this right side is actually the tighter side, but not really up by the rib cage in the middle. It's really down towards the obliques. So if you see here, I'm kind of working down in this area, right underneath the rib cage, where the obliques and the rib cage tend to meet. And that's historically what's tight for me. And when I work there, it actually helps, decompress my spine. And while you're doing this, right, every inhale should be able to decompress your spine. So if you're using a bunch of spinal decompression tables, if you have like a lot of tension in your mid back and lower back, a lot of that is due to a crushed rib cage, and your spine is actually not being allowed to decompress. So just doing work like this is going to help your rib cage actually move better, right? And we'll just stop it there. You can go longer. I just don't want to make this video forever, right? But now we're going to go another 6 breaths, right? Just compare it to when you first started, right? So we're just going in. I can take a way deeper breath. And also, what I wanted to point out before, and you guys can keep taking the breaths just to compare, right? Sometimes one side might feel like it needs a little bit more work. Sometimes the other one might. But in order to actually get the most out of this breathing, a lot of people get used to doing stomach breaths, right? Because this would be diaphragmatic breathing. But people will extend their stomach, so they'll be here and they'll go. Now, when you do that, that is not going to be that effective, because you're not actually holding the brace in the transverse abdominis. And when you hold the brace in the transverse abdominis, what ends up happening is now we can get that decompression of the spine, because the rib cage or the lungs are allowed to expand, right? So what we want to do in this breath is I like to put my finger in my belly button so I know I have some feedback as to whether or not it's moving or not, right? And the easiest way to do this is to lay on the ground first, right? Because then you don't have to really worry about gravity. So here, I take my finger inside of my belly button, and when I'm here, I'm trying to not move my belly button, so I'm actually sucking my belly button back towards my spine, and as I inhale, I want to make my rib cage as big as possible, right? So I'm inhaling, and then exhale. On the exhale, it contracts. That's correct. On the inhale, you want to expand, right? So we'll go to 4 breaths. So inhale, expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale, expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale, expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale, expand. Excuse me. Exhale, contract. One more. Inhale, expand. Exhale, contract. Now, you can also do that sitting up. We're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna show you 4 breaths, 2 facing you and then 2 not facing you, just so you can see kind of what's going on. So I'm gonna take my belly button. I'm gonna take my finger and put it in my belly button just so I have that feedback. And as I inhale, I want to make sure that my stomach is being pushed back, right? So I'm here, I'm holding that in while I take the inhale. 1. See the decompression in my spine when I take that inhale. 2. And I'm not doing this thing, right? And I'll turn to the back so you can see a little bit better. Right, and then from the front, it looks just like this. I'm just here. There you go. And that is decompressing the spine, that's decompressing the diaphragm, and all of that is going to help take the tension off your back and actually get your spine to move a little bit better, get that cerebral spinal fluid moving up and down the spine, and that is going to help you out immensely with your back. Literally just breathing. You don't have to sit down on the ground like we're doing now. You could do this while you're standing in a grocery store. You could do this while you're sitting down on your desk. You could do this at any given time, right? So these are the things, or something like this is going to be something that you can do daily. Really, you can do it multiple times a day, right? To actually get yourself better, instead of just taking, an hour each day to do it, because most people don't do that, right? If you could get a little hit, 2 minutes here, pay attention to your breathing, get it going a little bit, 2 minutes here, get it going a little bit. That's exactly how I started off. Right? That's exactly how I started off and how I continue. And that's how I get better and better and better without having this huge random practice. It's like, look, you're going to be breathing all the time. From time to time, you could just be aware of the types of breaths that you're taking so that you could actually enhance your life. And that's it. That's it. Real simple. Real simple, but super effective. I can't tell you how many people have had back pain and neck pain and low back, mid back pain, and maybe rib cage tightness, and this stuff helped them out tremendously. Just releasing the abs, releasing some of the ribs right here, and doing breathing. And these are things that you could do. You don't need a gym. Like, you don't need a gym to do these things. And these are the things that are actually going to get you out of pain and keep you out of pain. Because believe it or not, you breathe over 20,000 times a day. So you have 20,000 different opportunities to actually start changing the way your body functions. Not to mention doing controlled breaths actually helps you get a little bit more clear-headed because you're not in a stressed and frantic state. So that is all I got for you guys today. And yeah, come back to this video if you need to, as many times as you need to, and that's all I got.